making its way out of the stomach and into the small intestines, it is known as chyme. The small intestine is going to be the longest part of the alimentary canal, somewhere between 13 and 23 feet is going to be the small intestine. Okay, it's going to go from the pyloric sphincter all the way to the ileocecal valve. The mesentery is going to keep it in place. Bile and pancreatic enzymes are going to be released into the small intestine to aid or to finish in chemical digestion. This is where digestion is going to take place, okay, and absorption of nutrients and all that stuff, okay. When you are eating something delicious that is rich in vitamins and minerals and nutrients and all that stuff, your small intestine is going to be what is bringing that into your body. And your food's going to spend 3 to 5 hours in the small intestine. Okay, so this would be the small intestine area right here. If you were to stretch it all out, okay, it's going to be this long tubular portion that goes all the way to right here. So from the pyloric sphincter to the ileocecal valve. What is the ileocecal valve? It's a division between the small and large intestine. Okay, the three main parts of the small intestine are the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. The duodenum is going to be a small curved portion that attaches to the stomach. The head of the pancreas is going to fit nicely into that curvature area. Okay, and that's where we're going to allow bile and pancreatic enzymes to enter into our small intestine, right there into the duodenum. The main portion of the small intestine is known as the jejunum, and then the ileum is just a small portion that's at the very end of the small intestine. Okay, so here's your duodenum right here. Your pancreas fits nicely in right there. The jejunum is going to be the main part, and then you have the ileum that's the last part. The pancreatic duct is a duct which emits pancreatic enzymes from the pancreas into the duodenum to allow for to help out with more chemical digestion. Okay. We also have the bile duct. The bile duct is going to emit bile from actually from the gallbladder. It says from the liver and gallbladder, but it's going to come from the gallbladder into the small intestine to aid with chemical digestion. So here's your gallbladder here, okay, and it's going to shoot bile down into. Oh no, what happened? It's going to shoot bile down into the duodenum. You have lots and lots and lots of what's called microvilli and villi that are in the small intestine, and those are going to be on these circular folds. Okay, and so you've got these little villi structures just stacked all over each other, stacked on top of each other, and the reason for them is to increase the surface area inside your small intestines. Okay, the more surface area you have, the more opportunity you have to absorb nutrients. We also have Peyer's patches. Peyer's patches are these specialized lymphatic tissue which surround your intestines. This is going to prevent bacteria from entering into your bloodstream. Okay, so if your tonsils didn't catch the bacteria, and if the bacteria didn't die in your stomach in that gastric juice, and somehow they've made it all the way to the small intestine, the Peyer's patches are another line of defense which will keep bacteria from entering into your body. Now we're going to enter the large intestine. This is much larger in diameter than the small intestine. However, it's much shorter in length. Okay, so it's the reason it's titled the large intestine is only because of the diameter, not because of the length. Okay, it's going to go from the ileocecal valve to your anus, and it's going to dry out indigestible food by reabsorbing water. Okay, your body's going to reabsorb water from the large intestine. Okay, we also have halstra, which are these little pouches which are going to contract. That's going to help move food along. And your food's going to spend a long time in the large intestine, okay, roughly 10 to 24 hours, okay? Here's those halstra patches that I was mentioning earlier that are going to contract to help move food along, okay? The first part of the large intestine is called the cecum, okay? Remember that the last part of the small intestine was the ileum, and the first part of the large intestine is the cecum, hence the ileocecal valve, ileo to cecal, okay, ileocecal valve, which connects the small intestine to the large intestine, okay. This is going to be also where you're going to find the appendix, okay, and the appendix is going to provide a place for bacteria to hang out. And that can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. Okay, you want bacteria in your colon to aid in all kinds of processes. But if too much bacteria gets in there, then it can become infected and lead to appendicitis. So here's that ileocecal valve I was mentioning earlier. Here is the appendix here. This is the cecum. Then we're going to enter the ascending colon. The reason it's ascending is because it's going towards the head. Then we go to the transverse colon, which goes across, and then down the descending colon into this S-shaped area called the sigmoid colon. Then you drop down into your rectum, and then you exit the body out of the anus. So that is that. Here's a little FYI on the appendix. If you want to pause and read, you're welcome to. I've already mentioned a little bit about the ascending, transverse, and descending colons. A couple of things that I want to mention also about this, though, is that we have what's called the right colic flexure and the left colic flexure. Okay, now when you're looking at this picture, the right colic flexure is on the left, and that's because remember, when anytime we say right and left, we're referring to our body. So the right colic flexure is going to be the part where the ascending colon turns into the transverse colon on our right side of the body. The left colic flexure is going to be where the transverse colon turns into the descending colon. The sigmoid colon, as I mentioned earlier, is an S-shaped part of the large intestine. Then you go into the rectum and the anal canal and eventually the anus, which is the end of the large intestine. Also, this has sphincters that will help open the anus during defecation. Okay, and then the anus is going to be what's going to eventually open up to the exterior. Okay, so the two parts which open up to the exterior, you've got your mouth, which is open to the exterior, which is where you take things in. You've got the anus, which is open to the exterior, which is where you let things out. Okay. Lastly, goblet cells. We inside your goblet or inside your large intestine, we can also find goblet cells, and those are going to be those mucus producing cells. We talked about those way back in Unit 2 when we talked about tissues. But they're going to produce mucus to help the passage of that dried out feces. Okay, so you don't want that. We've made that feces dry because we've reabsorbed water and we want it to exit the body easily. And we don't want to lose a whole lot of water in that process as well. But as it's moving through, we don't want a lot of friction tearing that stuff up. So goblet cells are going to produce mucus to make sure that that doesn't.